everyone, we hope you're enjoying the Developer Marketing Summit so far. Just before we jump into the next session, we are so excited to be launching the Developer Marketing Alliance as its own community. So keep your eyes peeled for the link to our new Slack community in the comments, where we'll be carrying on the discussion of all things developer marketing after the summit. Join to connect with peers, ask questions, get access to fresh content, hear about upcoming events like this one, and discover new opportunities. Also, don't forget you can re-watch these amazing sessions whenever you want with on-demand access. All you need to do is sign up for an Access All Areas Pass or PMA Pro membership. With a PMA Pro membership, you'll also get footage from past events, exclusive content, templates, frameworks to help you excel in your role, plus so much more. But for now, back to the Developer Marketing Summit. Hey everyone, hope you're all enjoying the Developer Marketing Summit so far. Up next, we have another amazing live session, so don't forget to leave your questions in the comment section. But yeah, everyone, please welcome Nate Owen, CEO of AppSambler.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here today to talk with you about successful developer education. Who has done it and what does it look like? I want to thank the Product Marketing Alliance folks for the opportunity to share today, and I look forward to meeting all of you in the Q&A at the end. My name is Nate Ani, and I welcome you to email me or send me a message on Twitter if you have any questions or just want to say hi. So I started my career as a software developer. I even got a comp sci degree many moons ago. And pretty early on, I got involved with an open source community. And I can honestly say that I learned way more about software development as being a part of that community than I ever did getting a formal education at the university. And I really enjoyed being a part of these open source communities because there was this give first philosophy, freely sharing knowledge with each other without any commercial interest. And naturally, being a part of this community for so long, I eventually was called upon to share my knowledge. And so I found myself taking on another role, which was as an educator or a trainer, standing in front of developers, putting on my instructor hat. And lastly, as a tech entrepreneur, I started two companies, the first one being Jazzcarta, which is a web consulting company, and my current company, AppSambler, which makes an online learning platform for software companies. And so this background, I think, makes me uniquely qualified to speak on the topic today of successful developer education. Having been both a developer and an educator, and as a founder of a software company, I have a unique perspective on what kind of impact developer education can make on the overall success of a software company. So most of you, I suspect, are here because you've been tasked with increasing awareness and adoption of your product among developers. So first, we're going to talk about why developer education is not just important, but it's critical for the success of your product. Then I want to share with you some lessons we've learned working with some of the fastest growing software companies in the world. And much of their success hinges on one crucial activity, their ability to attract and educate developers. And so I'm going to share with you the key tactics and strategies that they're using to do this effectively. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how you can launch a developer education program at your company, or if you already have one, some actionable steps you can take to improve it and get even better results. So to illustrate just how important developer education is, this number represents the portion of sales opportunities that are not just lost as a direct result of developer influence. So this means you're losing about a third of your sales because the developers say no. Now, even though the developer doesn't traditionally have the budget, although more and more are getting it, they have enormous influence at these companies that you're trying to sell into. So if you don't get developer buy-in, they will reject the product and you might as well kiss goodbye to that opportunity. Or if your salespeople do manage to make the sale, but the developer never endorses the purchase, they won't adopt your product and they will cancel the subscription at the next renewal. So this number alone should scare the living daylights out of your salespeople and the executive leadership at your company if it hasn't already. So why is this happening? Well, there's been a fundamental shift in how software is purchased today. It's now a much more bottoms-up approach, which means that the users or the developers are doing a lot of investigation and evaluation well before the buyer even gets involved. So in this typical user and buyer journey, there are 8 steps, and the buyer doesn't even get involved until step 6, which is pretty late in the process. So if you're not doing everything you can to get developer buy-in in steps 1 through 6, you could pretty much forget about reaching the buyer because the developer will have already rejected your solution. So to simplify this even further, developers want to know what something does. They want to see it doing something amazing. That's the wow. They want to gain confidence that they can use it. That's the how. They want to test it out. And then they want to make a purchase. That's the buy now. Or they might recommend it to their boss to purchase it if they don't have the purchase authority. So for companies who make a tech product, there's typically a huge gap between the activation step and the conversion step. There's often silence as the developer does a proof of concept internally. Maybe they're not even using your public API. So this means that your marketing team is flying blind and forget about providing any insight to your sales team. The sales is not going to reach out because there's no indication that the timing is right. Or worse, they're going to reach out prematurely and scare away the developer. But what if you could give the developer a reason to stay engaged and you could guide them along this journey? What if they would gladly give you their email address so you know who this anonymous developer is? Well, we're going to discuss today how successful companies are doing this. So what is the secret to keeping the developer engaged, you may ask? Well, it's quite simple, actually. Engineers are more interested in content that teaches them something rather than content that is just trying to get them to buy. It seems obvious, right? But it's rare that companies do the teaching part really well. So let's look at some examples from companies who have successfully launched thriving developer education programs. And I've distilled down for you 4 things, make that 3, that these companies are doing, which I believe has contributed to their success. There's obviously a lot more, but in the interest of time, I'm only going to cover 3 of them today. So the first thing that these successful companies are doing is that they're offering interactive courses, including hands-on labs. Now you might say, well, why not, just have a free trial, drop the developer in your dashboard? Developers are smart people. They should be able to figure it out on their own, right? Wrong. Engineers have little patience for a poor developer experience. And if you don't make it easy for them to grok your product, they're going to move on pretty quickly. So this DevOps engineer says she'll give you about 20 minutes and she's out of there. So what's the best way to do this? Well, when 800 developers were surveyed in 2019, they were asked what their preference was for learning new skills. And 83% of them said they preferred tutorials. This was the #1 preferred way of learning for these developers. And Casey at BotPress agrees that you should create content that makes initial use of your product as seamless as possible. And she goes on to say that any content that minimizes how long it takes for someone to get up and running, such as a how-to tutorial, should be prioritized. So as we saw earlier, developers rank tutorials as super important, but not all tutorials are created equal. So I want to talk about the downside of static tutorials and the benefits of interactive tutorials that provide the learner with a way to check their knowledge or grade their work. So SlashData surveyed almost 16,000 developers, and they asked them, what are the most important things that companies should offer to support developers? And what they found was that professional and experienced developers, unsurprisingly, cited that the most important things were documentation and sample code, tutorials, and how-to videos and tools, integrations, and libraries. But we know that the developer population is growing every year. And there is now a new generation of developers who need more than docs and tutorials. So the most successful companies don't just stop with docs and tutorials and say, our job is done here. They go the extra mile and they build out project-based courses with hands-on labs. And this is what slash data describes as the extended core. So docs and tutorials are table stakes these days, and every developer-oriented company is going to have those. What will differentiate you from other companies and at the same time create a superior developer experience is if you provide online courses with hands-on labs. So let's look at a few examples. So here's an example of a Snowflake data warehousing workshop course in which the learner is asked to watch a video and then answer some questions to gauge their understanding of what they just watched. Let's take a look. So here's the video. There's an interactive transcript where they can quickly jump. They can change the speed if it's too slow. And after they watch the video, they're asked several things about the video they just watched. And they can answer these questions, and it gives them interactive feedback. If they get the question wrong, they can try it again. And these are knowledge checks. These are not graded. So the goal here is really just to check that the person actually understands the material and they were paying attention when they're watching the video. So in this way, they're sort of interacting with the learner and helping them and guiding them to the understanding about the material. So our customer Chef Software, now Progress Software, built the Learn Chef site to educate developers about cloud automation tools. And you can see they've got a bunch of different courses over here about their software. And in this short video, we're going to see how a learner enrolled in the Chef Custom Resources course. And with the click of a button, they can instantly spin up an environment and start doing the exercises. There's no downloads, no installs necessary. So the whole idea here is to make this frictionless. Let's take a look. So here they're going into their course, and when they click this button to launch their lab, it takes about 10 seconds, and they're immediately brought into a web-based IDE where they can open up a new Linux terminal and they can start running the Chef client command line tool. So literally from being in the course to needing the environment, that takes them about 10 seconds to get that environment. There's nothing to download, nothing to install. So I know what you're saying. Well, we have downloadable SDKs, we have Docker images, we have AMIs on Amazon. Well, the chances are that even with those things, you're losing some engineers, like the one we heard from before, who will give you 20 minutes. And after that, they're on to the next product in their shortlist. So Jody, a developer advocate at Chef, explains here why hands-on product sandboxes are so important. She says that developers need to be able to spin up the product quickly, because if they have to learn how to set up an environment just so that they can learn about your product, they're not going to stick around. Let's look at another example from our customer, InterSystems. So they have a bunch of getting started guides, which show the developer how to use the InterSystems Iris software to build different kinds of applications. So in this exercise, they're building a smart ticketing system. Now, normally there's a lot of setup required before the developer could even begin to start building this app. But thanks to the sandbox they provide, the developer is able to spin up not just an instance of the Iris software, but also a complete web-based IDE, which is bootstrapped with everything they need to start building the app. Again, the goal here is reducing friction and giving the developer a great learning experience. Now you might be thinking, well, those labs are great for downloadable, installable, open source software or SDKs, but what about SaaS products? Well, Snowflake has an autograder that they built for their Snowflake SaaS-based data cloud platform. So as the learner goes through the exercises in the Snowflake University courses, they're able to run scripts on the Snowflake side that check their work. And in this way, they get the immediate feedback. So we know how much developers like tutorials, and they're great as a first touch experience because they don't require the developer to register, and they are teaser content to get the developer excited about your product. But courses take that experience to the next level with knowledge checks, so the learner gets immediate feedback as they're going through the material. You have the ability to give pop quizzes or even timed exams. You can embed discussion forums into the courses so that developers can learn from their peers and not in isolation. You can issue certificates or badges to award them for their achievements. And most importantly, both you and the developer are able to track their progress, something that's pretty difficult to do with a simple static tutorial because it's just anonymous users that you'll see in Google Analytics. So the second thing that these companies are doing is that they recognize that learning is a continuous journey. There's no end because the product is always evolving, and the developers' use of the product becomes more sophisticated as they use it more. So the learning doesn't stop after they've bought the product. So these companies are finding ways to nurture engagement with the developer and help them grow and learn new skills. So I love this quote from Ashley because it goes back to what I love about my early experiences with open source communities. Connecting with developers is about giving back. It's about teaching them something valuable. And that may not necessarily be about your product. She says, everything we do is about teaching. And this is coming from the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. Teaching, not selling, is her strategy. So what successful companies like GitLab have realized is that what developers really value is learning new skills. So on the Learn Chef site, they're teaching their developer audience not just how to use the Chef products, but they're teaching them general developer skills such as DevOps and Git and Bash scripting. And what they found is that developers often end up on the Learn Chef site because they've Googled about DevOps or whatever. And before they know it, they're learning about Chef. Similar to the Learn Chef site, the Redis University site offers a bunch of courses about the Redis products. And they were experimenting with different ways to encourage learners to come back and complete the courses that they had enrolled in. And what they discovered that simply sending them an email every week, reminding them that their homework was due, worked wonders. And one surprising thing that they didn't expect is that they got a 67% open rate on these homework reminder emails. And the Redis marketing team was astonished because in the marketing world, that kind of open rate is just unheard of. So Snowflake has really thought about this idea of a continuous learning journey. So they've crafted multiple paths that you can take, and they encourage learners to continue to build on their previous skills and get deeper knowledge about the product. They've also built out a Snow Pro core certification program. And you can see that you have the choice to earn your certification by taking only on-demand courses, or you can choose the instructor-led option. Snowflake also uses their university site to encourage learners to attend one of their free data for breakfast workshops. So this is another way that they're nurturing and helping people to continue growing in their knowledge of Snowflake's products. Okay, so it's great that we've seen how learners can get that immediate feedback, but what about a feedback loop for the company? As they say, you can't improve what you don't measure. So I want to show a short video of the kinds of data that Redis and Chef are able to capture, and then we'll talk about what they're doing with that data. Okay, so on the left, we're going to do a very fast whirlwind tour of a learner simulating what they're doing. They're answering questions, they're watching videos, they're submitting assignments, and over on the right, we are tracking all of the events that we're capturing as they're doing these activities. So what videos are they playing? What problems are they submitting? And here, when the learner clicks this request certificate button, you'll notice that there's an event that gets fired. And we have all the data here about who requested that certificate, when they requested it, what course was it for. So what good is all this data? Well, let's see. This learning data informs and answers critical questions that your organization wants to know. Your educators and your instructors want to know, well, how can we make our content better? Your marketing team wants to know, well, who's highly engaged? Your sales team wants to know, well, when's the right time to reach out? I don't want to reach out prematurely. The product teams want to know, well, where are people getting stuck in the product? What are the features that they most want to learn about? And your executive leadership team wants to know, well, how does all this education drive more revenue and reduce cost? So with so many companies now selling their software in the subscription model, Zora introduced this concept of a subscriber identity record that gives you a whole bunch of information about each subscriber. Similarly, companies like Chef and Redis are collecting all kinds of data about learners, which allows them to build what we call a developer identity record. And with this data, these companies can then send highly personalized messages to these developers to guide them on their learning journey. So for Chef, this means being able to track course enrollments and completions and badge activities in Marketo and tag all this information in Salesforce. Why is this important for Chef? Well, it enables them to perform deep dives on engagement metrics. They can identify user personas and enable marketing touchpoints. That also helps them to better understand the learning journey and gives them a way to share reports through the entire company using Salesforce. Redis goes so far as to consider any learner who's completed a multi-week course as an MQL. So you have the funnel. If they've graduated, they're considered an MQL. Redis has even been able to measure not just MQLs, but they've been able to make the connection of recurring revenue where the first touch that they had with that person was that they took a Redis University course. And Alvin describes in this video, he describes Redis University as a sophisticated marketing program that gives them information that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So in looking at how investing in developer education has helped these companies, they've reported that it's had a positive impact on lead generation, increasing the number of certified developers, building awareness in developer communities, and increasing engagement and product adoption. Just incredible results that they've seen. So as we've seen from these examples, there are a lot of moving parts. So I want to briefly describe what I think you need to reach this level of maturity in your developer education program. And it comes down to three main things. So the first is getting the right people on your team. The second is working with the right partner. And the third is selecting the right product and tools. So let's start with the right people. So in older organization design, you had more siloed departments. But in the modern software organization, the teams in the organization are much more interdependent. There's a lot more cross-pollination between the different teams. So if you believe the best way to attract potential developers is to produce quality educational content, then you probably don't want your product marketing team producing that content. You'll likely get very polished stuff that sets off the BS detector in most developers. So good educational content is designed with learning objectives in mind and addresses the user's technical problems in an authentic way. So if you needed to have brain surgery, would you go to your family doctor? No, you would want to find the best surgeon who specializes in doing brain surgery. And I see so many software companies select partners or vendors who have this one-size-fits-all approach, who don't really understand the unique education needs that developer-oriented companies have. So some questions you might want to ask them are, well, how many software companies have they worked with before? Do they have a way for learners to spin up hands-on lab environments? Can they provide instructional designers who specialize in creating technical educational content? Is their system a silo, or can you integrate it with other third-party systems like CRMs, marketing automation, and data warehouses? So let's talk about choosing the right product. So most developer-oriented software products require more education and training in order for the customer to adopt and fully realize the value. That means there's a need for a solution that can embed quick and easy learning experiences during the pre-sale stages, guided instruction in sandbox environments during a proof of concept stage, as well as more comprehensive courses and certifications in the post-sale stages. So from what we've experienced working with a lot of software companies is that there are three capabilities you need to be able to offer a great developer education program. The first one is a way to author and deliver courses with knowledge checks and certifications. The second is a way to deliver on-demand sandboxes so that learners can do hands-on exercises and learn by doing. And the third is a robust integration story to get the data out of the course and labs platform and into your business tools. So you can use this data to launch personalized campaigns, identify buying signals, and improve your technical content and your products. This is my only sales pitch slide. One thing I want you to take away from this slide is that AppSembler exists to reduce the cost and complexity for companies to create hands-on learning experiences for developers and other technical users. And we have a unified platform that helps software companies go to market much faster than they could if they were trying to do it by themselves. Okay, so to summarize the key takeaways from today, what we've learned is that companies with successful developer education programs are offering interactive courses with hands-on labs. They're nurturing their developer audience with valuable educational content, and they're encouraging them to come back to continue their learning journey. And they're using telemetry to not only measure and improve the educational content, but to generate new leads and drive new revenue for the business. If you want to build your own developer education program, we see that the successful companies have a dedicated education team, even if it's only one person to start. They find the best partner to work with, one who has experience around developer education. And they make sure that they're selecting a product that's going to not just work for them today, but it's something that will scale with them as they grow. I think we have a little bit of time for questions. Thank you so much for your attention. It's been a pleasure to present to you today. And if we don't have time to get to your questions, here's my contact info, where I'm always happy to continue the conversation.
Hi, Nate. Thank you so much. That was really great. And yeah, we've had loads and loads of requests for your slides as well. So obviously we can get them sent over to everybody. But yeah, let's jump in with a couple of questions. We've got a couple of minutes, so let's go through that. So how many people do you need to get an education team off the ground?
Yeah, great question. As I hinted before, you really only need one person. When we started working with Redis, they were called Redis Labs back in the day. Eldon was the one-man band. He basically was creating all the video content. He was creating all the lab content. He was doing some of the promotional stuff. So you really don't need a whole team of people to start an education team. You can just start with one person, and then you can add additional people as needed as you grow.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that will be music to a lot of people's ears, and yeah, really useful stuff to know as well. What are some of the key metrics for tracking how successful your post-sale developer education program is?
Yeah, so I'd say one of the most common ones is completions. So how many people are actually getting through the courses, and enrollments is another one. Not everyone who signs up for a course necessarily has the objective to get to the end of the course. One way that you can encourage people to complete a course is to offer a certificate or a badge or something like that. But a lot of people are just taking these courses because they need sort of just-in-time learning. They have to solve a key business problem on their job, and they need to know something. And so they go into a course, they learn the thing they need, and then they're done. So that's one of the metrics. I think some of the other metrics are how many leads are being generated from the site. It's sometimes difficult with attribution, multi-touch attribution, to know, well, did that lead come because they took a course, or was that just one step in their journey? But that's another thing that we see these companies tracking, is being able to tie back revenue back to educational content that they're creating.
Amazing. And I think we've got time for one more question. So how do you, and what's the best way to encourage resistant developers?
Best way to encourage resistant, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think making it fun, making it easy, and really putting yourself in the shoes of the developer and thinking about what are all the different things that are going to be a blocker for them to get to success, whatever you define success as. Maybe success is, hello world, getting the first hello world set up. So I think it's really about removing friction and making that a fun experience for the developer. I mentioned earlier that Redis was sending out emails to remind people about their homework. That's another way, is just little gentle nudges to remind people that this is a journey, this is a learning journey, and we all want to help them achieve their learning goals.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, really, really great session. Really great talking to you as well. If people want to connect with you, can they do so on LinkedIn, or what's the best way?
Yeah, my email is right there. I'm also on Twitter, so I welcome anyone who wants to talk more. Just shoot me an email.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Nate. It was a pleasure.
Thank you all.